Let's see now. Clean, single, looking for a mate. What, me? No, I'm not writing an ad for a dating service. I'm happily married. But if you want to know what I am doing, then you'll have to keep watching. So since this is a non-commissioned piece, I'm just going to use some select pine that I have laying around the shop. The problem is the pattern calls for 11.5 by 10, and this is only 5.5 inches wide. So I'm going to end up cutting it and gluing it together to make a piece big enough for the project. So let's get to the saw and get it cut up. I want to talk about something before we do the actual glue up. I get this select pine from the big box stores, and as long as the factory edge has no damage to it, as long as it's nice and straight, you can eyeball it and make sure. There's really no need for this, especially for this particular type of project, for you to have to run it through the jointer. I'm using Tight Bond 2 wood glue. Like I said, I don't want to use a real large amount of glue. I don't want the squeeze out, and then it's really not necessary for this particular project I'm using. I gave it about a little over 3 hours to set so I could run it through the planer. But normally, if you're just going to put a pattern on this and scroll, it will work fine, letting it sit for 2 hours. Should work quite well, and we're just going to go ahead and run it through the planer. That looks pretty good. So now I'm going to take it to the drum sander and take a little bit more off and smooth it out real good before we take it over to the random mortable sander and sand it down smooth, put the pattern on. Pattern, and the paper is only 11 inches and the wood is 11.5 inches. I'm going to make some reference marks on each side of the wood at about 1/4 of an inch in, just to help me keep the pattern aligned. I'm using 3M multi-purpose 45. A little spray down. Let's get it to the drill press, get some holes drilled, and let's start cutting. Now we have all the holes drilled. Let's get it to the scroll saw and get it using a number 1 Flying Dutchman scroll reverse blade. Number 1 or number 3 would work great for this project. So let's get started. we have this done, there are 2 more pieces that we're going to need to be cut in order to complete this project. I've already printed the patterns, cut them out, and glued them on the wood. I'm using 1/8 inch Baltic birch plywood for both of these patterns. So we're just going to cut them out real quick. Now we're going to use my favorite and only method to remove these patterns. Take a little foam brush, some mineral spirits, just dip the tip of the brush in the mineral spirits. Let's see if these are about ready to come off. Oh yeah. Take a rag, put a little mineral spirits on it. Make sure we wipe over the areas to make sure any glue is removed. On the back of this, we're going to end up needing to put a backer on it, and I'm going to want it painted. And the next thing we're going to need also is 5 wooden clothespins. On one side of the clothespin, to help speed up the project, I've taped one of the pieces of the clothespin. Just take a piece of tape and lay it over the back. Just take some more painter's tape, and I'm going to want some glue on this backer. So I'm just using some Rust-Oleum lacquer base black spray paint. Dries fairly fast. Now for these 2 little pieces, I've chosen a red. These are water-based paint. Turn them over, I guess we can see them. I get these at the big box store. They're just craft paints. Put them upside down. These 2 are getting kind of empty, so keep painting under the bottom. We're just going to paint these only on one side. When they're on the side, they're going to be pointing edgewards, so I just keep them this side out. You can choose any color really you want. Now that the paint on the clothespins has had a chance to dry, if you'll notice I took the tape off, so we have bare wood here. I've laid out, we're going to have one down here on this end, and if you remember I said paint from this, or leave the paint off from the spring up. That's going to be our alignment point on the bottom. I've come over 2 and 5 3/4. 8 5/8, and then we'll line this one up on the end. So first off, I'm gonna glue them into place. Then after they set for a while, I will take a pin nailer and pin tag them on there just for the extra support, just using some Titebond. Use this very sparingly because if I'm going to put a finish on this afterwards. I'm going to use some Minwax stain, spray stain, golden oak, just to give this a little bit of a tint rather than the natural wood. I like it better. It's just my preference. You don't have to use some other kind of stain, But by applying these clothespins now and letting them dry, and they're already painted, when I apply this mid-wax stain, I wanted the bare wood on the back side of the clothespins with the glue to be able to bond to the bare wood on the project. And the stain is not going to hurt this black lacquer. I can take a rag and lightly wipe over it and you'll never even know it was there. So that's the reason I'm applying the clothespins first. This has been sitting for about an hour, so these clothespins should be dry enough for us to work with them. I'm just going to take my pen nailer so I can get it where you can see. I'm just going to move these the top over to the side a little bit. I'll reach in there and put a couple of pin nails. Next, stain and put a coat on it, darken it up just a little bit. Don't want it too terribly darkened. And we'll let it sit and dry and be ready to put the background and finish the project. Now that the stain's dried on the front and the paint on the backer is dried, we're going to stick the or put the backer on. I'm using Type Bond 2 again. Alright. Take the backer. Line it up and place it on. It down. I'm just going to take my pen nailer. I'm just going to run around the outside. Alright. So now we're ready. Place the other two pieces. If you haven't noticed by now, these are socks. Just line them up where you think they look good. Put a little bit more Type Bond on the back. Possible, but this is already stained, so it's really not going to hurt it. Type Bond on it. On this one, spread it around, and looks good right there. Now, put a few pin nails in these. We don't have to worry about those going anywhere. Now if you'll go ahead and put a couple of coats more of the blue and the red paint over the tops of these socks, it will help fill in, or if you want to, you can put a little putty or something in them to fill them up, but usually 2 or 3 more extra little coats, which really brings them out and makes them pop, fills up those holes. One thing I forgot to do when I had it flipped over, I guess when you get old you forget things like that, was we need to put a hanger on this. So real quick easy way that I put a hanger on is I get this packaging twine. It's really very sturdy, and I just want to make sure eyeball that I'm up here in an area that I don't shoot through the letters on the other side. And I just take my crown stapler, make sure I have it lined up and in the center, and if you have the air pressure turned down on this, it won't shoot all the way through the twine. And I just make sure I have a little slack in it where I want it. I cut off the other end. Keep these lined up. And here you have it, the completed sign. Now, I haven't shot the finish on it yet. I'll actually leave that up to you. I'll end up shooting it with some clear lacquer. I'll probably apply about 3 or 4 coats on it and make it look really nice. If you haven't figured out what the project is yet, it's a sign you hang in a laundry room, and when you lose a sock in the washer or dryer, you just hang it right here, and when the mate comes along, they live happily ever after. I want to thank y'all for staying with me and watching me through the whole video. Also, as a surprise, I'm going to put this pattern in PDF form on my website, simplywoodencreations.com. You can download it. I'll have the pattern for the words, for the socks, and a materials list of the other things you'll need to complete this project. If you would subscribe to me here on YouTube, and also like me on Facebook, simplywoodencreations.com. Thank you, and God bless.